Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Welcome to Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial, Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin. Inheritance battles and legal costs are becoming a growing concern for families nationwide. According to recent headlines, some families are losing millions to lawyers and costly courtroom fights, money that was meant to be left for loved ones. Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services joins me now to help make sense of it all. But before we get into the show, Philip, we want to let everybody know if the idea of leaving your legacy makes you anxious, or if you feel like you need to update your legacy plan, you haven't done that in a while, call Philip's office, Statler Financial. Do that today for their complimentary legacy planning review. This is definitely something folks need to get updated on. No cost, no obligation. Just call 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. So let's get into this now. Inheritance disputes, Philip, they just sound awful. Do these things really happen?
Unfortunately, they do happen. It is true that it happens. I'm fortunate that I've not seen a lot of it. But here's the deal. Families can lose a substantial portion of their inheritance to legal fees. I mean, you don't get to fight for free, right? If you're going in to fight, it's going to cost you attorney's fees, court costs, all that stuff. And it's going to lengthen the time it takes to settle that estate. This can especially be a stumbling block for families that have saved a lot of money, right? The more you have, the more the fights seem to break out. And here's the deal. You want to avoid these things. You want to do what you can to not have to deal with that, to get along. And there's some things we're going to talk about today I think will help in that process, Stephanie.
Well, you've been in your career now for a while. So have you seen something like this throughout your years of doing this?
I will say I've never seen a prolonged, really big battle. I've seen some little spats here and there. Nothing that I've seen that has raised to going to court to get things settled.
Right.
Though I know it happens. I hear them at conferences and stuff I go to. So I do know it happens. And we'll talk about this some more in the show today, is we talk about where it really starts to play a big role a lot of times is in blended families. Mm-hmm. There's some issues a lot of times. And the other place is, when somebody's actually being disinherited, sometimes it can be a little frustrating, and that there are some things that can be done to help offset some of that confusion.
Well, you mentioned some. What are some more factors maybe that can cause inheritance conflict from people?
Well, a lot of times it's just being unclear. You have a will that's just unclear, doesn't set things the way they need to be set up. And so that can be a big deal. Not updating beneficiary designations can cause a lot of heartache. And here's what I see, and I will just tell you, it is not a smart thing to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. I caution all my clients. I'll hear this. Hey, look, we're going to leave it to this one child. They know what we want to have done with it. That is the start of a disaster.
Right.
I get it. You think you're leaving it to a responsible child, and maybe he is. Maybe that's the most responsible one you have. But it still leaves open the fact that once that person has inherited everything, mm-hmm. they're done. They don't have to do anything. And so please don't do that. But if you have 10 beneficiaries, put 10 beneficiaries on your will, put them on your IRA, put them everywhere, so that then it's a clean, here's what everybody gets.
Right.
There's no room for any other issues. So, and then not being clear with heirs, and let everybody know. Hey, look, this is the way it's going to be. This is what we've decided. This is what we're going to do. And even families who get along well, it just seems like when money's involved, conflict happens. Yeah, and that's what I try, Stephanie, to really emphasize to my clients and to folks I meet with is that you may have a perfect family, but when you're gone, you don't know what's going to happen.
All chaos breaks out.
It can. It can. I've seen it happen.
Uh,
So please, please, please make sure you get those beneficiaries designations set up properly and don't leave everything to one child and give them the responsibility to divide it up. It not only is a challenge to them, but it brings other challenges that you may not think about because now they're gifting money. That's a gift tax return that has to be done. So there's other things that need to be considered before we really look at those things.
so how can listeners avoid some of these challenging situations?
Well, start by creating or updating your legacy plan now. Whether that's a will, a trust, whatever it is, do it now, not later. You don't know what later is going to do, right? Communicate your wishes clearly, both in writing the document and then face-to-face discussions with your family. Regularly review your beneficiary designations. Make sure they're what you want and how you want things to be divided. Work with a professional. Folks, don't go do your own will. Don't go do your own trust. Folks, these things have lasting consequences. Don't do that, okay? It may cost you a little bit now, but it'll cost you a lot more later if you don't do it right. Listen, your legacy should bring your loved ones together, not divide them. If you've saved at least $500,000 or more in assets and want to have more confidence about your legacy plan, call us here at Statler Financial for your complimentary review. We'll help you ensure your wishes are clear, your beneficiaries are clear, and that your wealth can go to those you love, not to the lawyers or to the courts. Give us a call today at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Some good information today. So if you're just tuning in, I am talking with Philip Statler of Statler Financial about avoiding costly inheritance disputes. Philip, what about, you mentioned this earlier, blended families or those with some complex assets. Is there a special risk for them? I would think that would be kind of complicated, isn't it?
Absolutely there is, right? Because in blended families, right, we've got folks that are, they're the children of one spouse and not the other. And so we have to make sure that we write, the language has to be written so that it's not necessarily per stirpes designations, but that we list everybody out and there's some real specifics there. The other issue can be multiple marriages. Maybe you've been married 3 or 4 times. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I've seen it happen, right?
Right.
So that can be a unique issue that we need, especially if there's children from multiple marriages. So we need to make sure we got that in our planning documents as well. Unique assets like businesses or vacation homes. These can make inheritance disputes even more likely because we're fighting over things. Specialized legacy planning, folks, is really crucial for these cases. Please work with a professional who has experience in dealing with these specific areas.
How often should an individual go into someone and get their legacy plan reviewed?
Well, the simple answer, Stephanie, is major life changes, right? I get married, I get divorced, we have new grandchildren. We sell property because that property is no longer part of our estate. We buy property because now we got new property that is part of our estate. Or you inherit assets. Even if nothing changes, you're just status quo. I would encourage you to check your plan document every couple of years to make sure something new doesn't come to mind that needs to be dealt with.
So this is a pretty big thing. It really is, the legacy planning. Do you have any final thoughts when it comes to planning for your legacy?
Don't procrastinate. I mean, it's easy. Don't get me wrong. It's easy to procrastinate when it comes to this stuff, right? Nobody wants to go through that process. It's a pain to do.
Yeah.
It takes time, energy. You have to make some decisions today that maybe you're not ready to make, but please don't procrastinate. Planning now could save your family stress, money, and heartache later. And work with a professional who's done this before. I mean, I've seen this a lot, especially in second marriages. I mean, here in our area in Central Florida, it is. I mean, we have, retirees that have all, have each lost their spouses and now they get married. And so, a lot of times they keep their stuff separate, which is good. That helps. But it's just, it can be an area that causes a lot of stress and strife within the family unit. And so we want to make sure that we walk through that stuff and get those things taken care of before it's too late and before it causes a big issue. Folks, listen, don't let your hard-earned wealth get tied up in legal battles or lost to fees. If you haven't reviewed your legacy plan in the last 2 years, or you're unsure if your plan would hold up in court, call us here at Statler Financial for your complimentary legacy plan review. We'll help you identify gaps or risk in your current plan, your current will, your current trust, those type of things. Ensure that your beneficiary designations are up to date and that you've got them properly done. Provide strategies to help minimize taxes and legal expenses. Folks, listen, there's no charge. We're here to help give you confidence in your plan. Call us now at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Philip, what is one of the biggest issues you've seen throughout your career that when it comes to inheritance?
Well, like I said a little earlier, when so many second marriages within our area here, just given to retirees, I'm gonna say that's probably the biggest one. Is that there's this concern that there was undue influence on one spouse or the other to reposition assets from an individual name to a joint account where one passes, then the other spouse gets everything that's in that account. Trusts that don't really specifically disinherit somebody. If you don't want somebody to get money, that has been a problem in the past as well. Those are probably the two main things. The second marriage thing is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it does unfortunately circle around, periodically.
Well, if you need a legacy plan or you need to update your legacy plan, you can go into Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial right now to do that. 863-877-1188 to get started. That's 863-877-1188. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show, and we'll be right back. Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Many people don't plan for long-term care until they have to. But long-term care isn't just nursing homes. It can include in-home care, assisted living, or ongoing support over time, and those costs often aren't covered by Medicare. That's why Statler Financial Services helps clients plan ahead, looking at how long-term care fits into a broader retirement strategy. Planning ahead is not about expecting the worst. It's about understanding your options. Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services today at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team offer guidance to clarify your choices and cost before you need to act, no matter what life brings. Now is the time to learn more. Call Statler Financial at 863-877-1188, or you can text VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President and founder of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. I am Stephanie Griffin. Let's get into this a little bit on this segment. Philip, I don't know if you've ever built a house before. You never start construction without a proper foundation. Very important. Yet, surprisingly, some people approach retirement planning exactly that way, focusing on just one aspect while ignoring the crucial elements that help provide essential support and stability. So, Philip, let's talk a little bit about this. What are these essential pillars that help form the foundation of a confident retirement?
Yeah, Stephanie, let's look at that because I've never built a house. They tell me that's the one thing that will truly test your marriage is when you go to build a house. So,
It is. Speaking from experience.
so let's look at a couple things here that I think really lay kind of a foundation for our retirement. The first thing is tax efficient strategies are really often overlooked. I can't tell you, Stephanie, how many times I've sat down with folks and sometimes too late, right, to help them make a change. But they'd come in and said, Philip, we want to pay off the house, or we want to pay off the car loans, or we want to take that 401k money and take a chunk out for whatever. And they don't think about the tax aspect of what that's going to cost them in taxes. So often, especially if it's in a year in which they actually retired, they've been working. And so they've got W-2 wages, and then they want to take money out of their 401k. And so now it pushes them into a new tax bracket, one of the things that we want to try to keep them out of. And so that's an area that we want to focus on when it comes to that, because there's different strategies. It's not like you have to take it all at one time. We've helped people come up with different strategies to do things like that. Doing Roth conversions. I mean, there's all kinds of strategies that you can put together that are going to help you down the road pay the least amount of taxes possible. The second one is investment management that's appropriate for retirement. Again, that's the case where in our core retirement design, we talk about the risk analysis, and that's where this plays a role, is because people are so used to saving and putting money in their 401k, and that's great. I'm so glad and thankful they do. The problem is they don't shift gears when they retire. Mm-hmm. They've stopped working, but they've left their investments the same exact way in the same growth bucket they had them while they were working. And unfortunately, their circumstances have changed significantly because they don't have a regular income coming in anymore when it comes to that job. And then the third thing that I think is important is reliable income is crucial, that you generate reliable income on a regular basis. And let's remember the three-legged stool, right? We had the first leg was a pension, which unfortunately we really don't have a lot of times anymore. The second leg was Social Security, and the third leg was your investments and what you saved. And so we really need all three of these strategies working together to put together a plan. If we're missing one of these items, it can put your entire plan at risk, Stephanie.
That's not good. So you definitely need to pay attention, and maybe even better yet, have Philip pay attention for you. He is with the Statler Financial Services, and you can give him a call. Maybe get a second opinion if you'd like to do that. 863-877-1188. That number is 863-877-1188. Now, I know that the retirement landscape has changed dramatically from what previous generations. I know my grandparents' generation a lot different than my generation. So what specific challenges, rather, would make having all three pillars so important today?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones, Stephanie, is we're living so much longer, right? You can figure that life expectancy is longer, so we're going to be living longer in retirement. So our investments, our portfolios have to last us 30 plus years. I mean, I know when we run our numbers, when we run out to age 100, we want to make sure that there's going to be something left at age 100. People say, well, I'm not going to live that long. And I get that, but there's going to be emergencies along the way that's going to take extra money out of the plan. So we want to make sure there's something left at the end when it comes to that. The other thing I think is there's fewer guaranteed pensions. We're seeing less and less in the pension world now, especially from corporate America. We've got market volatility concerns we have to deal with. The ups and downs of the market. If you happen to retire and it's like in 2000, that year when the markets declined significantly, or like in 2008, we had huge bear markets. that can be devastating to your retirement. I've seen people actually put retirement on hold for a couple of years because of that. Then you've got rising healthcare costs, which we've all faced that. And then lastly, tax uncertainty with our growing national debt. Now, I will say that we've gotten a little bit of reprieve on the tax uncertainty, but it's still uncertain after 5 years, right? We've got some certainty for the next 5 years. So we need to take advantage of that, Stephanie.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the pillars. The first pillar, specifically, the tax-efficient strategies, Philip. Why is this sometimes an overlooked aspect of retirement planning?
Well, I think one is so many people believe that their taxes are going to be lower in retirement. And that's just a myth these days based on what I see and where our current tax brackets can be down the road. A lot of people, that's just not going to be the case. They've accumulated these huge IRAs, and when the tax man comes wanting their required minimum distributions, that's going to jack up their tax brackets. Also, then most retirement savings is held in tax deferred accounts, traditional IRAs, which means when you pull money out, Uncle Sam's there with his hand. He wants his part every time you pull money out of that account. And then I think a lot of people forget that Social Security is taxable. So many people think it's not. And there are some cases where it is not taxable, but for the most of us out there, it is or will be taxable. Up to 85% can be taxable. I mean, people don't realize that. And then I think the last thing is that people mistakenly assume that nothing can be done with their, their tax strategies, or there's nothing they can do different. And that's just not the case. There's a lot of things that we can do when it comes to tax planning. Sometimes it's better to pay a little tax today to lessen the amount of tax we may have to pay down the road. And again, that's why I create my core retirement design. The design part is designing, the most efficient tax strategy you can. Give us a call at 863-877-1180 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
Well, maybe you're out today shopping, getting ready to shop in downtown Lake Placid, or you are maybe just listening to the show, hanging out at home, drinking coffee, whatever. And maybe you are putting off your financial planning. We would love you to give Philip Statler and his team a call. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Pick up that phone right now, 863-877-1188, 863-877-1188, or you can even go online at statlerfinancial.com. We are talking about the 3 pillars of retirement. And Philip, how do you help people evaluate the strength of each pillar in their current plan?
Well, I think what we do is we look at each area. We look at the risk, which is what causes volatility in their portfolios. And so we want to measure that risk, and we want to reduce the volatility that they may experience within their portfolio. Secondly, we're going to put together, a tax plan for them. We're going to look to see what plan do they currently have for taxes. When I sit down with most people, they don't have a plan for their taxes. They say, well, my CPA takes care of that, or my tax guy takes care of that. And so I don't have, much of a plan. I take him the stuff and get my taxes done. Folks, you need to have a tax plan in place. How can you pay the least amount of taxes for you, your spouse, your beneficiaries? What can you do to reduce your total tax impact? I think that's important. And then, of course, lastly, is you got to have income. I mean, that's the whole thing when it comes to retirement planning, is you got to have income, consistent income coming in that's going to last your entire lifetime. And that's a big deal. We need to have confidence that the income we have coming in is going to last as long as we need it to. And so I think that's, those are the pillars we need to make sure we've got firmly grounded into our circumstances.
Seems like there's a lot more challenges these days that retirees are facing. You probably agree with me on that, Philip. What would you say to someone who wants to help make sure their retirement foundation is solid?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest challenges, Stephanie, that we don't talk about as often. I mean, we've talked about it on several shows, but it doesn't take a whole show a lot of times to talk about inflation. But inflation that we've had the last 3 or 4 years has just been nothing. I mean, you got to go back to the 70s to see the kind of inflation that we're having right now or have had. And so that has really knocked retirees back a little bit because everything's going up. And so I think that's an area that we need to make sure that we've got a solid income foundation. I mean, that needs to be a true foundational part of your retirement plan is that income, because we need that income to get us through the rest of our lives. Again, our core retirement design is great for that because we cover those 3 key aspects for you. We look at the risk in your portfolio. What that really means to you is what's the volatility going to look like? What are the swings going to look like in my portfolio based on my current portfolio versus what I should have? Secondly is taxes. We want to put you in the best tax situation you can be in. And then we need to create income for you so that you've got the income you're going to need month in and month out. That's our core retirement design. I'd love to discuss it with you. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you can also text VISIT to that same number as well to get your free consultation, 863-877-1188. Coming up next, we'll explore why the investment strategies that help you build wealth during your working years might not be the best approach for retirement. Make sure you stay tuned. We've got the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
The market goes up, it goes down, but retirement keeps going. And when you're close to retirement, those swings can feel very different. At Statler Financial Services, our planning focuses on helping plans stay aligned through market movement, so short-term volatility doesn't disrupt your long-term plans. It's about balance, income planning, and staying disciplined through changing markets. Call or text VISIT to 863-877-1188 now for your free risk analysis from Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. If you're nearing retirement or already there, now's the time to review your strategy. Take the first step. Get your questions answered before the next market volatility takes a chunk out of your portfolio. Call or text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President of Statler Financial, Philip Statler. Most of us spend decades focusing on growing our retirement savings, but managing this money in retirement requires a very different approach. So, Philip, why is it important to reassess investment strategies as people near retirement?
Well, I think one thing is that your focus has to shift from accumulation to distribution. And what that means, Stephanie, is that, for all those years while you're working, you've been accumulating, dumping money into the 401k, dumping money into investments, and watching them grow. Well, once you kind of switch the switch and now I'm going to be retired, now it's going to reverse. Instead of putting money in, we're going to start taking money out. And so, we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place that's going to support distribution now, because it is a different mindset, it is a different philosophy, and it is a different way to invest than when you're trying to accumulate assets for retirement. During the distribution phase, it's a totally different game. The other thing we have to look out for is market risk and volatility. They can have a pronounced impact when taking withdrawals for income. If you're taking money out and the market's going down, then every time you take money out, you're losing money. And that can be devastating to any kind of income plan or portfolio that's in place. That's why it's important that you have different buckets and that you've got different ways to diversify. If you listen to my show much at all, you know that to me, the first avenue of diversification is how much do you have market risk and how much do you have principal protected. Those are the first avenues of diversification. Before you start that pie chart, you need to make that decision. The other thing I think people don't quite get is that the older we are, the less time we have to wait out the market declines. It averages, I go back and look at 2000 and look at 2008. And in both those cases, if you had a well-rounded portfolio, it took anywhere from 4 to 6 years just to get back to even in those bear markets. You need to balance growth with preservation, like I just said, and then you need a reliable income stream. You have to create kind of your own pension so that you've got that coming in consistently every month.
And could you talk a little bit more about that, how retirees create reliable retirement paychecks from their savings?
Absolutely. We have multiple areas of income sources, right? We need to create that and coordinate that. So Social Security is, most everybody going to get Social Security. Some people have a pension. And between those are sources of income we're going to have coming in. But we're going to be spending money, and typically people are going to have a shortfall. So we have to create a plan to compensate for that shortcome. How can you do that? There's different ways to do that, right? There's some annuities that help out. There's having a good income portfolio that's going to create consistent income on a regular basis. So there's ways to do that. But one of the things that we need to look at in that process is make sure that we are strategically timing our Social Security. We need to look at that. When is the best time for you to take your Social Security? Because when you need to take yours is not necessarily when I need to take mine, right? So we need to make sure that we have a plan in place. When is the best time to take your Social Security? Investment strategies. What do we need? How do we need to invest? Everybody needs some growth in their portfolio. I get that all the time. Well, Philip, I'm too old. I don't need any market exposure. Well, I tell people, look, even my 90-year-old clients need a little bit of market exposure to help keep up with inflation and to really help buoy up everything when times are good. And then we need to have some income options available. You got to plan for inflation. We've had 4 years of rough inflation, and that's really the first inflation that's been high in a long time. For a lot of people, it's the first time they've seen this kind of inflation at all. And so, but we need to remember that. We need to plan for that, Stephanie.
That's right. Definitely do that planning for sure. 863-877-1188 to talk to Philip Statler and his team at Statler Financial Services. That number again, and I will give it to you, but you can also text the word visit to this number as well. 863-877-1188. Give Philip and his team a call. Now, we're not sure when things will happen, when your life will come to an end. We don't have an expiration date on us, which makes retirement planning particularly challenging for us. So how do you help people ensure their money will last as long as they do?
Well, I think starting by creating that written retirement income plan. Statistically, Stephanie, only 30% of the folks out there have any kind of retirement income plan. And even the ones they have are in their head and not on paper a lot of times. So we need to have a written retirement income plan, a playbook to follow as we head into retirement. We need to know the amount that you're going to need in retirement. What's that paycheck need to look like? How much are we going to need to pull out of our investments on a monthly basis to fill that gap between Social Security and your pension and expenses? That we got to fill that gap. No, we need to identify the sources of income that you have. Most people are going to have Social Security. Some people are going to have pension. There's some folks out there that have some rental homes that are going to create some passive income for them. So we have to identify what those sources of income are and to build that plan and put it together. Build some inflation preservation, and that's where, market comes into play. And then we have to regularly monitor everything, make adjustments so that we avoid the big surprises down the road. All this can be accomplished through our core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. Spend 30 minutes with me on the phone to make sure that you're on the path to the retirement you always dreamed of. That number again is 863-877-1188.
I'm sure a lot of people don't know where to start. So how do you, Philip, how do you as an advisor, how do you help somebody develop a plan?
Well, we start at the beginning, right? We look at what are their goals, what do they want to accomplish in retirement? And we help them walk through that. Then the first step is the hardest step, right? What are we going to have to spend? What do we want to spend in retirement? What does that look like? And then we develop a plan around that. What's that going to look like? And what's the tax implications of that plan? And have we built that in as an expense on the other side? And are there ways that we can work together to keep you in that 12% tax bracket instead of the 22% tax bracket or the 24% tax bracket? What things can we do to help you stay and pay the least amount of taxes? And I think, that the whole income planning process really adds some confidence in folks' retirement, because heading into retirement, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we want to make sure we build a plan to take out as much of that uncertainty as we can. And that's really where we kind of start at, Stephanie.
Well, if you already have a retirement plan in place, why is getting a second opinion so important?
Well, because what I've seen in the past is that retirement plan is really, I call the junk drawer approach. I open the junk drawer at my kitchen, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of neat things that I may need at some point in time. And a lot of folks, that's the way they've set up their retirement. They've got a lot of accounts, and they're good accounts. But they don't really have a plan on how they're going to access those accounts. They may need some money this month. They'll take it from this account. They're going to go on vacation. They're going to take a long road trip. I'm going to take some money out of this account. But there's no consistent plan in place. And that's really where getting that second opinion, looking over your existing plan with a new set of eyes can really open up the options that are available to make sure that, one, you're not going to run out of money. Two, that you're going to pay the least amount of taxes possible, not just today. Remember, sometimes it's better to pay a little tax today so we don't have to pay a lot of tax down the road. Those are things that we look at when we're, assessing a plan that's already in place, because those are the things that we make sure we put in our plans when we sit down with folks. So I think that's the key, Stephanie, and all that's built into our core retirement design. Folks, I know we hammer hard on that, but really and truly, I developed it because of what I saw out there when I would sit down with clients and what they had done. And I saw where they had some shortcomings. And so that's where we developed this core retirement design to fill the gap, to look at what does risk look like in your portfolio? What do taxes look like coming down the road? And remember, when a spouse passes away, your tax bill goes up on the same income you have coming in. And we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place to deal with that as well. Give us a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend a half hour with you on the phone to make sure that you're on the right path to the retirement you dreamed of.
If you are in and around the Sebring area, call Philip and his team and talk about your retirement. Let him know you need help. I mean, if you need help, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Definitely give him a call and ask questions. He'd love to answer them for you. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Or you can text the word VISIT to that same phone number. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show, and we will be right back.
Many people don't plan for long-term care until they have to. But long-term care isn't just nursing homes. It can include in-home care, assisted living, or ongoing support over time, and those costs often aren't covered by Medicare. That's why Statler Financial Services helps clients plan ahead, looking at how long-term care fits into a broader retirement strategy. Planning ahead is not about expecting the worst. It's about understanding your options. Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services today at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team offer guidance to clarify your choices and cost before you need to act, no matter what life brings. Now is the time to learn more. Call Statler Financial at 863-877-1188, or you can text VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler is with me right now. Over 2 decades of experience in financial services. I think that's terrific. And we are kind of getting into the fun stuff here with the mailbag questions. I love these, Philip. These are a lot of fun and some really good questions from the listeners as well. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Our first question is from Jean from Sebring. Jean asked, I'm still quite a few years away from retirement, but I have no idea what my savings target should be. How much might I need to save so I can have a comfortable retirement? That's a common question, isn't it? A lot of people are wondering that.
It is. It's a very common question. You know, we talk about it a lot on the show, but it's the wrong question, right? So we need to look at it from a different perspective because we don't know how much you need until we know how much you're going to spend, right? So the key is spending. What does your spending budget look like in retirement? And that's the key. And nobody likes a budget. I get that. I don't like it either.
Or it'd be word, yeah.
That's right. I mean, nobody likes that word. But you have to have an idea of what you're going to be spending in retirement. Whether that's I need a new boat because I want to go fishing all the time, or hey, I'm playing golf like it's my job. I have a client that did that, right? They played golf 5 days a week. That was their job. They took the weekends off. And so, so that's the first thing to look at is how much money am I going to need for spending on an annual basis? And once I get that number, then I can help you figure out how much you need to have in your bucket at retirement to pay for all the spending. So that's the key, Gene, is tell me how much you're going to need to spend on an annual basis.
All
But
right.
I can tell you what you might need to have saved for a comfortable retirement.
Our next question, Mike from Avon Park. Are rental properties a good source of income for my retirement?
You know, they can be. I don't know if you've ever been a landlord before. I have.
No.
I hated it.
Unless you include my 2 boys.
So I would say yes, they can, especially in today's marketplace where rentals in our community are short supply, meaning you can get a good rent. You can get good cash flow on your rental. But you have to ask, do you want to manage it? Do you want to pay somebody to manage it? Do you want to be a landlord? There's good and the bad, right? And from a tax standpoint, it can be really good. One of the issues that a lot of folks have is all their money's in an IRA. And the only way that I would say that it really makes sense today in the high interest rate environment we're in is you got to pay cash or mostly cash for that rental house for the cash flow. So if everybody's money is sitting in a traditional IRA, then they got to pay the tax to go buy the property. And sometimes that just doesn't make sense because of the tax liability you're going to have in that process. So though rental property can provide good cash flow and it can provide some tax advantages, the downside is that we usually don't have the cash to pay for it. So, we end up with a mortgage, and interest rates right now are pretty high. So that eats into our cash flow. And so that's kind of a negative. And then do you want to be a landlord? Do you want to pay somebody to be the landlord for you? Either way, it can be, fixing stuff back up after people move out. Like I said, I've done it. I don't think I'll do it again.
Seems like a lot of work.
So, it is a lot of work.
You want to retire to go enjoy life, and it just seems like so much work.
Hope that helps.
Appreciate that, Philip. We are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show now. We'd love you to call Philip and ask him any kind of question you like, or you can even text the word VISIT to go talk to him and have your free consultation at 863-877-1188. That number again is 863-877-1188. And I love the fact that you are right here in Sebring, Florida, and people listening now, they're not listening to somebody across the United States. You're right here in their own backyard. And I have Bill from Lake Placid, question from him. He says, I think I have a pretty good handle on our financial retirement, but I'm worried that I'm missing something. Do you have some sort of checklist or to-do list to help make sure I'm not forgetting anything?
I wish I did. I did it one time and it kind of got obsolete and I never revised it and put it back together. But I'd love to sit down with you and we can go through where you are and see if there's some things you can tweak, or some things that maybe you can do to put yourself in a better position. I don't have a problem with that, just to make sure that, that you're doing what you need to do and are on the right track. A lot of folks, though, when they hit that retirement stage, they're ready to hand that plan off to somebody else, right? Because, well, you're retired to quit working, not to have to keep an eye on, your finances and your portfolios and make adjustments and, those type of things. And so I'd love to sit down with you and make sure that you're on the right path, to making sure that you're going the right direction, have an income plan that's really going to provide the income you need, throughout your lifetime. And just make sure that you're going to pay the least amount of taxes possible. A lot of people, they'll put together a financial plan, an income plan, but they forget about the tax aspect of retirement.
That's a biggie for sure. Give Philip a call, 863-877-1188. That number again is 863-877-1188. These questions are from you, the listener, folks that are getting ready to retire or maybe already in retirement. Jeff from Sebring wants to know, if I'm retiring in the next 5 years or so, is it more important to max out my contributions to my retirement accounts, or should I focus more on building up my emergency fund? Really good question.
That is a good question. So I think you have to look at it in two ways. If you cannot do both, ideally you should do both, right? You should max out your contributions to your retirement plan and build up your emergency fund. Now, the question is, how much do you think your emergency fund needs to be? My opinion, and my opinion only, is I think that in retirement, you should have an emergency fund of somewhere around $25,000, no more than $50,000. There's no reason to have more than $50,000 sitting in a bank account somewhere. So that's kind of my criteria that I look at. And so if you're not there yet, I would probably start splitting them, right? Splitting them from your retirement accounts, half of it into your emergency fund. And let's see in the next 5 years if we can't get to at least $25,000 in the emergency fund. Once you do, then you flip it, start putting everything in the retirement account so that you've got the most you need there. And And then it's a process, Jeff, of putting together an income plan to make sure that the amount you have in your retirement accounts is going to be enough to get you through retirement. And so that's, I think that would be a good goal to accomplish. If you can, next 5 years, end up with $25,000 in an emergency fund and put as much as you can into your retirement accounts, building both of them up would be beneficial for you to retire in the next 5 years. Now, I don't know how old you're going to be in 5 years, but the other thing that you need to look at is, when do you take Social Security? If you're not going to be 67 yet, then maybe we don't want to take our Social Security yet. I mean, that's another area of planning when we do our income planning, is looking at when should you take your Social Security? What does it look like if I wait? And looking at those key aspects of income planning process is making sure that we're using our money the best way possible. And Social Security is a big deal. It's a big part of our retirement income. And again, that's part of our core retirement design. The income plan portion is we look at the income planning, our pensions, our Social Security. How do those things all fit together to produce the income we're going to need in retirement? To get started, it's a simple phone call. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend 30 minutes with you on the phone, making sure you're making the right choices when it comes to your retirement. That number one more time, 863-877-1188.
So after that initial conversation on the phone, and if they do decide to become a client, or if they just want to come in and visit a little more with you, what do they expect? What can folks expect when they come and talk to you?
So after the phone call, if it looks like there's some way or somehow we can help them, then we'll have them come in and go through our core retirement design process. And the first part of that process is a project where we put together a risk assessment of their current portfolio. We put together a tax plan to make sure that we can convert things to a Roth IRA, and making sure that we're being very conservative on our numbers to make sure that we make that conversion and pay the least amount of taxes possible. And then the third leg is putting together that income plan. So we put together an income plan that says, hey, look, here, based on where you are today, here's how much money it looks like you should be able to take out or have to spend, including your Social Security and your pension. Here's the number that you should be able to spend in retirement. And that gives you that confidence to know that you're not going to run out of money and be in good shape throughout retirement.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. And it was great talking to you today, Philip. Thank you so much.
All right, Stephanie, thank you very much. And I look forward to next week.
Sounds good. And don't forget, you could give him a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Thanks again. And we will talk to you next week on the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.